YouTube so that no one can watch us. Mute it. The video. Cool. I'm going to start recording now. Welcome to episode 48 of the Podcast of Terror, production of Galactic Netcasts. This is a podcast about all things scary. I am your host, Matt Stein. With me, as always, is Corey. I look really fuckable in my hate hat, Scott. Corey, how are you?
I'm ready to be fucked.
You got the hair. We can get it all messed up. You look freshly fucked. It'll be good. For more on this podcast, including show notes, contact information, and subscription links, go to gncast.com/pot. And to chat with us on Slack channel during our shows, you can go to gncast.com/signup. While you're over there, you can go ahead and subscribe to our newsletter as well. We spoil things, so if you haven't seen the topic that we're going to be discussing, which this week is Cabin in the Woods, go ahead, pause this. We'll still be here. Watch it. Come back. And I fucking swear a lot.
We might not actually be here. We might be rummaging through your clothing and stuff at that point, but what you don't know doesn't hurt you, and the itch will go away with the applicable powder.
Yeah, just see your doctor, say that you've got a case of the Corey Scott balls. He'll give you a nice powder. It'll ease the itching.
They know what that is, especially over a Kaiser.
Tonight we're going to be joined by podcasting musician Brett Stewart, who's the host of the Jukebox Podcast, co-host of the Geek Cinema Society, which will be coming out on Blazing Caribou Studios in late July. You can go ahead and find all of his music on his website at brettdavidstewart.com. We'll have the link in the show notes, but yeah, fuck that. You can get that on the internet. Brett, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you're currently traveling. You're visiting your parents, I believe we were talking about, but
yep, out here in Denver, seeing my folks for a week.
So, are your parents also musicians, or do you just travel with a bunch of microphones and a mixer and a keyboard?
I travel with a bunch of microphones, mixer, a keyboard, and 2 guitars. So, yeah, it's a pain in the ass to get through security because TSA doesn't know what microphones are when they see them in the scanner. So I have to plan for about an hour or so of searches.
So do they ask you if you're carrying an obscene amount of dildos?
It's implied. It's implied. But once we open it up, they realize that it's just a shit ton of microphones.
Once they open you up, they realize that there's no real obscene number of dildos. You just meet the caveat under the line for obscenity.
Right, just the amount that they'll let you through TSA.
Damn it, Martha, he's one dildo short of being obscene. I assume the TSA lady's name is Martha. Awesome, well, thanks for coming. I know that we've been talking about doing this for a while, so I'm glad that we can finally get you on.
Yeah, it is my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So if you're new to the podcast, it's here. Shame on you. Corey will be over shortly to spank you. But first of all, we talk about some news that happened recently, and then we'll go ahead and get into our Cabin in the Woods magic. So first of all, we're going to start off with something that we talked about on a previous episode. Evil Dead 2 board game at that time was going to be a thing, and now they have since launched a Kickstarter that is just a monstrosity. I think it went up a week ago.
Yeah, it's got 23 days to go, and it's at over $300,000 of its $70,000 goal. So
Yeah,
it no longer needs you, but it's a great way to get the game if you want it, probably for less than you'd get it at the store.
It's true. If you play board games and you're familiar, it looks like it plays like the Zombies game where you play tiles as you go to build your board. That got me hard. I don't know about you, Corey.
Well, you know, I'm older, so it would take a board game and maybe a collectible card game to get me up at this point.
Brett, do you play board games much?
You know, I do play board games, and I'm stoked about this. I love that they have reached their goal and surpassed it extensively. I think it's cool that if you look at the rewards, they don't have any of those bullshit awards that are like commit $1 or $2 to feel good about yourself and give yourself a pat on the back on Twitter. I love that the first one is $5 and you actually get a copy of one of the award-winning comics. I think that's great that regardless of where you pledge, you're going to get stuff.
Hey, you know, I never even noticed that. To be perfectly honest, if I look at a Kickstarter that I seriously am considering backing, I just scroll right to the middle. I might have just passed all the shit where it's like, we'll tweet at you.
Exactly. Well, this doesn't have that, so I appreciate that. Whatever you give to them, they're going to give you something back in return.
If you like comics, $5. Yeah, I'm not a comic guy, but Corey probably just died a little bit inside.
No, I'm okay with that. I make things you don't pay attention to all the time, like little sculptures of my poop that I leave in your doorstep.
That's you?
One of them is.
I thought it was the cat across the street leaving me gifts.
The cat and I are working together.
You and Mr. Boots? The cat across the street. So funny.
We really want to keep going with this?
But I have a story about the cat across the street.
Okay.
So we had a possum living under our deck a few years back, and we put out a trap to catch it. But the first night we caught the neighbor's cat. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, it's no bueno.
Yeah, I'm like, I think it was fucking pissed. They right across the street. I'm like, well, I hope they never find out that we just caught their cat. I don't really care. We're trying to move, so fuck them.
Yeah. Did you ever return the cat, or did you just keep it like?
No, we opened the trap, and the cat just ran back home.
Cat tastes enough like possum to me.
Oh God. Next story. Speaking of things that taste like possum, apparently Saw 8 is going to become a thing, which I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I have a very uncomfortable erection. Like, I'm not sure if I'm excited or I just my murder boner is back.
I mean, the thing about this is it's kind of like the Stones retiring from touring, and then all of a sudden, a couple years later, the Stones come back around and they're like, hey, we're going to tour again. So it was complete and utter bullshit when they kept saying to us, yeah, we're going to do the last Saw movie, this is it, the series is ending. And then a couple years go by, and it's like, hey, new Saw! Everybody remember when we were something? Yeah, it was called Saw 1.
I actually own all 7.
Yeah, I think you talked about that recently. I think we talked about that when Jack was on last week.
Probably.
And I'm not hateful towards the Saw movies. When people talk about torture porn movies and stuff and they bring up Saw, I'm like, no, Saw had more depth. Saw actually had a story to it, and I appreciated Saw a lot more. But it did get long in the tooth. And I hope that they're bringing it back because they thought of something to actually, bring something new to it as opposed to just beating the same idea down on the ground because nobody else has been copying Saw lately.
Right. Well, the whole idea of Saw was that it was gory, but there was some sort of like bizarre existential crisis that each of the characters was having during the film about like, why am I here? Why did he put me in this basement? And that was what was kind of cool about Saw. And then they had some great twists. Like I thought Saw 2 is still my favorite because I love the ending of that.
It's funny, your descriptor just described Matt's neighbors. Why am I here? And why did he put me in his basement?
And it looks like what they're trying to do here. It's called Saw Legacy. So hopefully they tie it all back together and maybe introduce some new plot elements. I'm tentatively excited for it.
It's been have either of you seen all 7?
I've seen like 5 of them.
Oh, sorry, I'm the only one dumb enough to keep giving him money. I don't remember the end of 7, so I cannot say for certain if they tied up all of like the story loopholes. I can't remember if it was 5 or 6 that like went back in time and just literally just all it did was answer questions. But 7 had that Chester dildo from fucking Linkin Park, and his like chest got ripped out, so I was okay with that.
It's always nice to see people die and things that you're just like, oh, well, that made it worth my time. When John Bon Jovi gets shot in the throat in Young Guns 2, everybody stood up in the audience and cheered at the theater I was at the time, so I get it.
DirecTV commercials.
How do you guys feel about the director and writers of, or at least the directors of Daybreakers doing it? I forgot Daybreakers was a thing until I read this.
I didn't even know Daybreakers was a thing. I gotta Google it quick.
Yeah, 10 years after a plague turns the world's population into vampires, a critical blood shortage causes panic and gruesome mutations amongst the reanimated.
Oh.
One of those Ethan Hawke films that not a lot of people saw.
I saw it.
Did you?
That's how memorable it was that I forgot I saw it.
Well, it's also one of those like vampires running around, so we're going to use a blue filter on everything to disguise it as night. And it just becomes so much of an eyesore trying to watch it. all the Underworld movies were like that, and I just couldn't watch them past the first one. They kept coming out. I'm like, no, thank you, no. But then we're looking at Saw, and it looks like it's a green filter and everything. So, fuck Hollywood.
I guess I can't really say that I'm like upset that the director from Daybreakers is doing it. 'Cause I always assume the worst and everything, so it's hard to say like how much push when they did Daybreakers, like how much push from above they got, and that's ultimately what made it shitty. So it may not have been their fault. It may have been their fault. They may make Saw shitty, but at this point, Saw is in itself kind of shitty. It's not. It's like a hollow shell of what it once was. It's like going to see Kiss 30 years ago. Now you're seeing a bunch of old dudes in costumes and face paint waddle around on stage, and that's with everything. When it gets older, less of it is new to you. It's less exciting. So in short, I don't think I care that the guy who directed Daybreakers is doing Saw.
Yeah, it's actually a partner, like a duo, and they've only made 3 or 4 films, all of which have starred Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, they work with him a lot. And then, who is it? Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger are the ones who are writing the screenplay, and they wrote Sorority Row and Piranha 3D. I just watched Piranha 3D recently on Sci-Fi at 4 o'clock in the morning a couple weeks ago, and I don't think anybody was paying attention to the writing in it.
I don't think so. I think when you put 3D in the film title, it's already going in a weird direction, which didn't...
wasn't it like 3 double D or something?
I gotta look this one up.
Wasn't it supposed to
do that, or was that Final Destination?
Breasts being...
Sorry, Corey, I didn't mean to cut you off. The Piranha Double D, yeah, it's Piranha 3 Double D, and it's just cans. But yes, Brett, the Saw 7 was called Saw 3D, the final chapter.
Okay, right on.
And it came out in 2010. Wow. Yeah, that was when putting everything in 3D was the new hotness.
Oh, that's right. So 3 Double D was the follow-up to this 3D one. I still can't imagine that it was very good. But hey, Saw. It's like getting a new Child's Play or a new Halloween. We know it's not going to be what it was. But if you enjoyed the franchise, then you get more of the franchise.
Did you know that you can purchase all 7 Saw movies on Blu-ray on Amazon for $15?
Why does it sound like you're reading this like a midnight infomercial about Christ? Did you know that through the power of God, you can get Saw 1 through 7 for $15 and give the rest of your $100 bill to me and my church?
All the money I spent purchasing these movies over the years, and for what?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When these things were coming out, it was kind of oh, yay, I'm going to get the Saw set. And then all of a sudden they have a new film the next year. Shit, I got to get the new Saw set. And then the next one comes out the next year. Fucking dildos, I got to get the new Saw set. And then you finally have them all. And it was like $80 when they'd hit. And now it's,
$15.
Can't give it away.
Not only that, but fuck, whatever, Blu-ray. God, so angry right now. We should probably move on before I have.
Well, if you're pissed off about that, you can join Corey Feldman and get pissed off about a sequel to Lost Boys is getting made, except now it's getting made in the comics. Our next story is coming to us from bloodydisgusting.com, which is telling us about Vertigo Comics, a subdivision of DC, is doing a Lost Boys sequel. And this is following up what was recently, Corey Feldman was talking about the idea of a all-female-led Lost Boys sequel coming out called Lost Girls, which has been in development since almost the time that Lost Boys came out. It's been talked about, but he's like, no, that sounds like the female Ghostbusters, and nobody's going to want to see that, and they only want to see the originals, even though my best friend is dead and died without his teeth. But what? Sure, let's piss on the idea that maybe they can do something new with Lost Boys besides the shitty sequels that Feldman's already been in.
Well, have you seen Feldman in the last couple of years?
The last thing I saw him on was one of those wife swap shows.
I saw that. Oh god, that was hilarious. He's
It-
so he's out to lunch, and he's been out to lunch for a couple years.
He's the living embodiment of white Michael Jackson that is just kept going down the crazy train, except not as rich.
Well, his music is hilarious. He is.
Music.
Oh yeah, he crowdfunded a music campaign last year in which if you donated at a $30 level, he would Facebook friend you, like his personal Facebook page. And I kind of wanted to drop $30 of that to have Corey Feldman on my personal Facebook page. I didn't end up doing it. I don't know if anyone did, but it was a thing.
He also has his harem of women that he calls Corey's Angels, and
Yeah, he kind of just has these weird sex slaves walking around his house, and he won't let them go to college.
won't let them have any kind of opinions or anything. It's like it's important, and he thinks of it like he's some sort of life coach as he's doing it, but he has them parade around without clothes, and it's fucking nuts. It is fucking bullshit nuts.
Have either of you listened to Corey Feldman's music?
Yes.
I've tried.
I'm not surprised. Is it like rap music or what?
No.
He definitely had he had Snoop Dogg rap over one of the songs recently.
Oh, did he?
I'm staring at it and trying really hard not to start playing it.
I know the one that he had a music video for when he was promoting the Kickstarter, or the Indiegogo rather, was he was like running around his house, and it was set to this anthemic kind of hard rock with like a tinge of pop. It was really bad.
Like what you imagine Hulk Hogan entering a room to, like Hulk Hogan walks into a Taco Bell and you're there, Hulk, just
Yeah, more or less. Because he started a record label called Elevator, spelled with an 8. 2, the letter 2, and Ascension. So it's Elevator to Ascension. And surprisingly, a lot of people ended up backing this. It didn't make its goal, though.
People are dumb. Sorry. If you're listening to this and you backed it, I'm sorry, but you're dumb.
and people have a love of celebrity, and certainly celebrities that we grew up with. I mean, I'll be totally honest. The reason why my name Corey is spelled the way it is because of Corey Haim and Corey Feldman.
Right, and as long as we're shitting on how weird he is now, I don't know what credence there is to what he writes in his books, and because he did write a book, but he has been kind of the poster boy of sexual abuse in Hollywood, and I don't know whether or not that really happened to him or not, but that's definitely like there might be a reason he's a messed up guy. I don't know.
No, absolutely, and I mean he obviously we talk about child actors in the 80s, and there seems to be a vast amount of knowledge of the abuse that went on in Hollywood to these kids at that point in time. And he's also done a good amount of prolific work, stuff that stands up to this day. You talk about Goonies, even if you're talking about the horror community. We just watched a video that came out that's about Friday the 13th Part 5, New Beginning, or was it 4? And he was in that. He played the kid who kills Jason in that film. He shows up in the 5th one as well. That's what it is. And he obviously he's done a lot. He's gotten to a level where maybe it's better for him to live outside of society, and maybe it's better for him to live outside of reality a little bit.
Well,
But
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brett.
Oh, I didn't say anything. But something we should definitely point out is that 2 weeks ago, no, yesterday, he landed on the top 100 with one of his singles. Corey Feldman, "Go For It," featuring Snoop Dogg, number 61. So good for Corey Feldman. It's awful music, but at least he's doing something
I
with it.
so badly want to play this right now, but
good for Snoop Dogg, because it's obviously the only part of that that's any relevance in why it
Oh,
landed
that's
on
the
the
reason
charts.
it's on the top 100.
Yeah,
There's no doubt
absolutely.
about that.
I feel like it bears like mentioning that there's a potential that he's lived outside of like a normal life for so long, being a child actor, that maybe he doesn't know how to function.
Being a child actor and being extremely wealthy, and having to grow up in Hollywood, which is let's be honest, it's an ugly place.
Yeah.
But as far as the comic's concerned, the comic is being written by Tim Seeley, who has done some very good horror work before. We've talked about he did that hack slash comic series that was possibly going to be a movie or a TV series at one point. I haven't seen anything about it since then. Covers are by Tony Harris, who's worked in the industry for a long time, did some great stuff. Did the Starman series from DC. So it looks potentially be an interesting take on the comic. The comic could be good. It could be what gets the next movie made. It's not unusual for people to take a comic series and go straight to movie from that script because they've already got it essentially storyboarded.
I was listening, I swear, but I was trying to remember the name of the Corey's movie where they got their driver's license.
License to Drive.
Yep, I had to Google it.
Heather Graham as Mercedes.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had a wet dream. Cool. Well, I guess we can talk about Corey Feldman for like another 20 minutes if you guys want.
That would make Corey Feldman really happy.
Fucking Corey Feldman stock through the roof right now. We've talked about him so much that I'm going to add him as one of the key terms for
I think
our
you should
podcast.
just Facebook friend him at this point because not a lot of people supported the Kickstarter, so he's probably got open slots.
Actually, oh fuck, I had to log my wife out of Facebook first. This is actually happening. I'm going to find him and friend him on.
Your wife wakes up tomorrow and she goes, "Why the fuck am I friends with Corey Feldman on Facebook, you asshole?"
To which I respond, "Why the fuck not?"
Yeah.
Feldman. See, Brett, this is what happens when you greenlight me drinking while we're recording. Feldman. Oh, he must be.
Oh yeah, his occupation is just listed as God. I'm gonna add him as a friend. All right, I just sent him a friend request.
Yes, I'm going to. Oh, I can't accept.
Oh, it says he has too many friends.
His birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Corey Feldman! Damn it.
He studied at the University of Consciousness. That sounds right.
He looks like a bad Skrillex knockoff. Like, look at this
I'd
banner.
argue that Skrillex stole the look from Corey Feldman because Corey Feldman's looked like that a long time. Go back to Dream a Little Dream. He was rocking that look as a teenager.
Fucking
I think he's wearing chainmail.
That is possible.
Could be wrong. I don't know. But I digress. I wish him the best with his music.
Hey, he's still alive. You go, Feldman.
Whatever. Fuck him.
Keep rocking the living world, Feld.
Congratulations, your liver hasn't given out yet. What the fuck? Sorry, I'm looking at our YouTube video because there's a chat, and it's just a bunch of fucking Russian.
Oh, Feldman fans have found us.
We brought the fucking fans.
I'm scared to Google what they're saying. Let's go ahead and start talking about Cabin in the Woods. Corey Feldman's already gotten too much of our time. Yeah, Brett wanted to talk about the 2012 Cabin in the Woods.
Filmed in 2010, took about 2 years to come out. Now, I just want to warn people, we do say at the top of the show that we're going to spoil things, but when it comes to getting spoiled, this movie really, it's a payoff for you to watch it without it being spoiled. It's a payoff to enjoy it the first time, going in knowing as little about it as possible. So if for some reason you have magically not happened to see Cabin in the Woods yet, watch it now.
That was a weird jerk session you just had with that movie.
I
mean, I get it. I liked it too, but to slow jerk it on the podcast, a little strange.
You were here. I had to look you in the eye while I jerked it off and just make eye contact the whole time. Felt real. Felt good. Felt solid. Felt wet.
Nice.
Yeah. Go with that. Wow, that was a good one. That was a good one, Corey. I felt like I couldn't call you Corey because we just talked about Corey Feldman so much that I'm like, am I still talking about Corey Feldman?
That's going to piss me off. God damn it. Now I'm going to have to come up with a new name or go back to my real one.
Hey, granted, wait, what?
Hello.
I don't have to fake yelling Corey's name in bed, your name is Corey.
That's really not true. So Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah. Great movie.
Uh,
See you guys. See you guys later.
Thanks for the show, Brett. We really appreciate the suggestion. Where can we find you online?
I was really so I just rewatched it literally this afternoon. I hadn't seen it in quite a while. I didn't even remember the ending. I'm not 100% sure I even saw the ending ever. So I've seen it now, though, Corey.
Matt never watched all the way to the end of the movie ever. In Matt's mind, Old Yeller is still alive.
I generally stop as soon as the credits start, so if there's something after the credits, I miss it. But we went and saw The Secret Life of Pets in the theater, and I made sure to stick around until like the real credits started, so I didn't miss anything.
We actually went and saw that yesterday too, and I make people sit through the entire credits.
So you're basically movie Hitler.
I'm that guy. Yeah, wife and mother-in-law were sitting there like, okay, we're gonna go. Fuck off, because I'm gonna sit here and watch through the whole thing.
Have fun. So anyways, what I've been trying to say for 5 minutes now is that I was very surprised to see that Chris Hemsworth was in it. Still looking and handsome.
So you only got so far as to not know that Chris Hemsworth was in the movie before? Like, that's not even close to the end. That's closer to the beginning.
No. Motherfucker. I was saying I watched the end, comma, by the way, I was surprised to see that Chris Hemsworth was in it. Two separate statements. I was
surprised that this person who I've seen in the movie, the times that I've seen it before, is still in it. I thought maybe they would have filmed him out at this point. Fucking Loki shows up and takes over the role because that's what Loki would do.
Maria, I hate you so much right now. When I first saw this movie, it was before...
Yeah, it was before he was a big deal.
Yeah. So the first Thor came out before this movie. I don't think I saw it until afterwards, so I didn't really think about who he was.
And it's quite a staggering difference in how he looks between the two. Like this, he looks like a pretty typical college beefcakey guy, but he doesn't look like Thor.
Very true. Fucking Thor. His giant dong.
And I would say, out of the main cast, or certainly the 5 in the cabin, he has had his career blow up the most since this film came out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And probably association from this film, working with Joss Whedon, may be part of why he got chosen for Thor in the first place.
Right, and that's kind of one of the reasons I chose this movie, is because I just love the idea that Joss Whedon made this movie. You look at a director who did Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who did Firefly, Serenity, did Avengers, Age of Ultron, and then just in a hodgepodge middle of his career, Cabin in the Woods, and I love that about him. I think that's just a fascinating thing to have in the middle of your repertoire, and I think the movie is it hits on all the right cylinders for me, because it takes every trope and every stereotypical plot line of a horror film and kind of jams them all together with a surprisingly elegantly written story that has an equally surprising amount of depth and makes a really cohesive film that is pretty rewatchable. It's a great movie.
There was a lot of jokes were made and stuff too, which I thought played really well. Like my favorite being at the end, because they're talking about, these giant evil gods are going to come back if we don't kill you in this specific order, and the stoner guy is just like, that'd be really cool to see, and I'm like, yeah, it would be really cool to see, and then you don't get to fucking see it.
You get to see the hand,
just like the merman. Like,
oh man,
right, love the merman.
I can't think of what that guy's real name is.
Bradley Whitford, and he's wonderful in everything. I love him.
The only thing I remember him in is Billy Madison.
He was one of the leads in The West Wing.
Yeah, I'd be
also Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip.
Basically, if it's an Aaron Sorkin thing, he's probably been in it.
I don't remember him in Newsroom, actually.
He wasn't in Newsroom, you're right. He wasn't in Newsroom. He was in Studio 60, he was in West Wing, and then he was in that other one that Sorkin did, Sports Center or something.
Sports Night.
Sports Night, right.
Yeah, and like you said, excellent in everything. I mean, he's an awesome Awesome actor. The whole cast in this is really good, but when you see the behind the scenes stuff, you see people more who are kind of Joss staples. You got Tom Lenk is in this. He obviously was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Amy Acker shows up in this as one of the scientists. She's from Angel and Dollhouse. Fran Kranz was on Dollhouse at this point as well. So Joss likes to work with people that he's worked with before. Drew Goddard, who he co-wrote this with and directed this, he had worked on Buffy and Angel and Lost and wrote Cloverfield, and so this was his directorial debut.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't forget that there's also Sigourney Weaver, who was in Alien Resurrection, which he wrote.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like it's A-list Whedon fare, as much as you can be A-list as Whedon fare, but just such a great statement about horror movies in general. What they did is they were kind of writing it as a love letter to the horror stuff that they liked and as a commentary on torture porn movies and stuff and where the direction of horror had been going in and how they weren't really big fans of it, and kind of made something that pointed out the faults of what was happening with horror currently, while still showing how great horror could be from all the classic things that we've grown up with. When they had the list of all the different creatures that could be what wiped them out. My wife and I actually watched this, when we watched it the first time, we bought the book about the movie, and it had the list in there, and it has all these other things, background of the film. But there are things like tree rape and things that you would see in other films.
It's zombie redneck torture family. They're different species. You gotta keep
Deadites was on the list. Deadites was actually called out. They had things that were obviously like Cenobites. They had stuff that looked like it was straight out of Silent Hill. Just such a great array of different things that it could have been. And it's like if you had seen it and you saw that list and then we just had to deal with the zombie family, that would have been kind of disappointing. The way that they treat you by introducing all these creatures anyways was so brilliant and so over the top and elevated this film in a way that, I mean, this is a film that rarely am I surprised by a movie as I'm watching it. This thing just kept upping the ante along the way. And from the very beginning, you don't know what it's about, you don't know what's going on, and as it breaks down over time and you see it and you get the reveals, it's just so excellent in how it does every little thing, and the payoffs of things like I always wanted to see the merman, and then the merman does get to come and kill the guy. It's all so great.
Had you seen it before?
I saw it several years ago, but like it's also, that's kind of a thing to think about too, is watching it over and over again. It's obviously it's not going to be the same effect the second time. Start going and you try to pinpoint the things that you missed before, knowing what happened, and you start to look at things a little bit differently as you go. Diminishing returns every so often, unless you give yourself space in between. So I haven't watched in a couple years.
I was just seeing how long you guys would wait to say something. Yeah, I did really enjoy a lot of times where there's, like when Chris Hemsworth is going to jump the gap. There's like a minute. It took me a minute to realize, like, oh, there's the bird hits the thing in the beginning of the movie, and he's totally gonna fucking hit it and eat shit and die. And then he totally eats shit and fucking dies. But
yeah, there's great foreshadowing like that. Like when I love that the zombie in the van does not attack them until long after they've, left and Hemsworth is dead. Then it attacks them, and it's in the van because of the handprint. And it's just, I think Joss Whedon does a great job with that. I think that is one of the redeeming parts of this film is that, as Corey said, they're tiny little things, right? When they go down into the cellar, and you see all these different items and how they could have potentially activated them to call upon a different demon or monster onto them. There's a lot there that you might not pick up on your first run through.
Yeah, and everything about this is kind of like, I mean, you watch it and you just look at it from the point of view of a horror fan. It's kind of like when the Saw movies came out and they were a statement about what slasher films had been for so long. This does that as well, but it involves the filmmakers too. I mean, there's a reason why the big villain at the end of it is named the director. You know, it's such a clear statement about what horror movies are. But there's things that you would watch, and seeing how they are kind of forcing them to follow the tropes of horror movies. When the girl picks up the knife and kills the zombie that is attacking them in the cellar, and then they hit the button to give a little static electricity charge to make her instinctively drop the knife so that she's not carrying anymore, because that's a trope in horror movies is you've got a weapon. Oh, well, I've just killed the thing that's trying to kill us, so I'm going to drop the weapon now. And it's like, why would you do that? Well, they made her do it. They showed the points where they're egging things along. When they're talking about the, not the messenger, maybe he's the messenger, the guy who's at the Harbinger, yeah, the guy who's talking to them at the gas station. He's like, hey, you will burn in the blood of blah, blah, blah. And like, they're just making fun of him over the phone. But it's such a great trope because that's important to how these stories work out. And when the guy who's doing security for the facility is like, oh, well, these look like out of a nightmare. And the actor's like, no, this is what nightmares are based off of, is these things are old horror things that existed before, and the stories have come out because of them. It's just really well done. And the fact that it was written in like 3 days in a hotel room is just crazy to me. But you've got two guys who've been studying this stuff for years.
That's true. And the fact that it's not meant to be taken seriously, but meant to be taken serious at the same time is really nice. The story
it's not openly a comedy, which it just has some comedic elements to it. Yeah, it's just so well done. I love that the way Joss Whedon wrote it was, how can we, combine all of these tropes, everything from, them dropping the knife to the stereotypes that they all are within the cabin, and the cabin itself is a stereotype, but combine them in a cohesive script that actually feels so fresh and original, and that in itself is commendable, to take everything that is boring and redone over and over and over again, turn it into something original.
Yeah, and they turn them from... I'm sorry, Matt, go ahead.
As I said, I just had a huge light bulb because we were talking about how you don't pick up things the first time, and towards the end, when the stoner guy is talking about how sexy Chris Hemsworth is normally not like an alpha, and he's usually not pushy, and he goes, yeah, I've never seen him like this. And then you recall at the beginning, he takes the books, and he goes, oh, you don't have to cover this book. The teacher does it cover to cover, so if you want to read something more interesting, he pulls this other book. And like, I never thought about it. It's like that at that point they were portraying him as being a smart guy, but then once he gets to the cabin and they pump it full of their pheromones or whatever, he turns into a big meathead.
Yeah, and how they make Jules go from being a very smart kind of normal girl to being the whore, as the guy labels her, by using chemicals in her hair dye that start to absorb into her scalp. And that's the thing, is they're trying to fit these tropes because this is what the viewers, who are the gods down underneath, this is what they want. This is what they expect out of their horror. This is what they have come to expect and accept in these movies, and so they don't want to veer too far off of this. So there always has to be 5, and they have to fit these types of things. So there has to be the virginal girl, and there has to be the boyfriend who's kind of studious, and then the athletic boyfriend, jock guy, and then the girl who's just willing to get naked and slut it up, and then the guy who's the fool or the stoner. It's so laid out, it's perfect. It's like putting together a role-playing game for horror. It's like playing a Cthulhu campaign, except it shows that you have to fit these marks to make it work for who is essentially what the film is for and what the sacrifice is for, which is the gods, the old gods. So the old gods are the audience. The director is obviously portrayed. I think the writers are portrayed by the two guys who are in the facility that are making everything happen.
Yeah, the two that work in the control room.
The rest of it's just production company.
Well, yeah, they talk about there's engineering who was supposed to make the
cave in
collapse, and but there was a mention of accounting, but that was just for overtime, so it was nothing that awesome.
We just lost Brett.
Damn it! I was trying to pause it before you said something.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. I'll just cut it out real quick. Yeah, he just twittered at me. Oh, let me stop. 2 seconds. If you're watching this and you're not one of us, we're sorry. Technical difficulties. There we go. Okay. Let's wait for him to come back. In the meantime, let's listen to some Corey Feldman.
Oh, God damn it.
I really want to hear it, and if I don't listen to it right now, I'm going to forget about it. Corey Feldman. Oh, M-A-N. Oh, fuck. Listen to his number one.
Tell him.
All right, cool. That's garbage.
I don't think anybody was expecting it not to be.
So not only does he look like Skrillex, but his music is trying to sound like Skrillex.
Doing its best to. What the fuck is going on in the chat? It just Sika Bled over and over again.
Yeah, it's Russian for mediocre bitch.
Oh, I'll accept that.
Yeah, but if you look at every one of them, they have 0 subscribers, so I'm sure it's just like a bot. But how they ended up in this episode is beyond me.
I don't know. We got 4 thumbs up and 2 thumbs down.
5 thumbs ups.
Oh, I need to refresh that.
Bitch. Yeah, I don't know, whatever.
It's YouTube.
People hate us.
That's the joy of YouTube. Hi, YouTube.
Yeah. Are you watching this?
I opened it up when you mentioned that there were people in chat. I wondered what was going on.
Oh, okay. So I'm watching it and you're watching it, which means someone is watching it that isn't one of us.
Well, it could be Brett.
It could. Damn it.
Oh, or it could be the bot. Whatever hell is going on.
Bots. I just was going to try and promote interaction and.
Well, it would be if you are watching this for some reason. Hi, Beat.
Oh, Beat's
How's it going, man? Beatmaster is in there.
It's a fucking pimp.
Well, Beat probably doesn't need a reminder, but if you are watching this on YouTube, you can join our Slack channel by going to gncast.com/signup, and then you can chat with us there and maybe not have people say mean things about you in Russian.
Yeah, Beat, go ahead and join our Slack channel. We've really been wanting to hang out with you there.
Beat's in there.
I know he is. That was a fucking joke, Corey. God.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not funny today.
So what's your real name?
Well, let me just say it online for you. No, my real name's Donald.
Really?
Yeah.
I expected if you had a different name, it was going to be Christian.
No, Christian's my middle name, as Corey.
Huh.
Corey Christian Scott is the name that I go by. And I have since I was 16, but my real name is Donald Martin Cantwell III.
Wait. Fucking say that again?
My real name is Donald Martin Cantwell III.
So where does Corey Scott come from?
My mom actually wanted to name me Corey Scott Cantwell. No E in Corey, 1 T in Scott.
So here I've been saying your name is Corey Scott, and it's a fucking...
Hello.
There we go.
Yeah, I got a message on my screen that said the host has ended this Google Hangout. Please try again.
shit.
And I kept trying again.
Oh, I paused it like right after you left, so we could pick up right where we were.
Oh, well, I so apologize. That was really bizarre. I'd never had that message.
Don't worry about it. I'm just trying to figure out what Corey's real name is here.
Is Corey not his real name?
Corey's never been my real name.
I didn't know that.
Jesus.
Jesus is not my real name either, but I
Like I'm
have
eating a complete.
passed.
All right, well, I'm good whenever. That was odd. I don't know.
We got to get to the bottom of this real quick. I don't want to take much of Brett's time, but okay. So
You're
Corey,
fine, man.
so this is like the time. So I have one of my best friends in Kansas. His last name is Savage. Probably one of the most badass last names ever.
It is pretty good up there with Slaughter.
I did not know that it was not his real last name until it was right before we got married. I used a friend of mine who had like the companion tickets working for an airline. I booked James a flight. And I booked it, and I'm like, here you go, dude, here's all your stuff. And he goes, oh, by the way, my legal last name is not Savage. And I'm like, what? It was like, fucking blew my mind.
Yeah, it happened to me. We went on a trip to Red Bluff to see the Red Bluff Roundup, which is the rodeo that they do there.
Yeah.
And our friend's mom booked the hotel for us, which is great. And we get there, and they're like, okay, so it's booked under the name Corey Scott. I'm like, oh, well, shit. That's not my real name. So I call up my friend. She calls her mom. Her mom calls the hotel because they wouldn't just take our word for it. And, of course, everything's booked in town. And she's like, okay, we got it fixed. So it's under Corey Cantwell. No, that's not going to work either. But I had my Geek Squad badge, which said Corey Cantwell on it. So I was able to. They bought it for that.
What the fuck were we
It
talking?
happens to the best of us. I had a friend for 5 years, and I thought he was Jewish. He was not. I'm not kidding. I learned it about 5 years later.
Well, I don't know how to say it without, but like,
we know.
yeah,
We know where that was going to go.
not knowing someone's not a Jew is different than not knowing their name, but I get it. You're friends with people you really... Wait, did he tell you he was Jewish?
Yeah, we all just kind of assumed he was Jewish.
That was your...
And we knew him for about 5 years, and then he realized that someone had told me he was Jewish, and he ran with it. So I didn't know until about 5 years later, when he's like, by the way, you know I'm actually not Jewish, right? Because I was confused why he was celebrating Christmas.
Because that's against the law. Jason Biggs, I remember Jason Biggs being on something with Kevin Smith, where he was interviewing people. I think because they were just doing the one with Ben Affleck and J-Lo and all that, Jersey Girl, and Kevin Smith made some joke about Jews to Jason Biggs, and Jason Biggs like, yes, but again, as I keep telling you, I'm not Jewish, so it doesn't really affect me. And I think Jason Biggs had been in a movie by Woody Allen, and Woody Allen didn't know that he wasn't Jewish when he cast him in the role, and so he just never told him.
I totally had something to say and I fucking lost it. I blame you guys.
So where did we leave off?
I don't remember.
We were talking about... Corey was saying that the people down below, the demons down below, are the viewers, and they want us to see these stereotypical characters within their slots. That is what we want as viewers.
Yeah, we want to see the same stories over and over again, but we want to see them more pronounced each time, because you have to always up the ante. You have to always up the pain and the scariness and the gore and everything else.
Click record before you go into
right.
rant. I'm just warning you. I don't want you to get too much. So Corey, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so, I mean, what happens is what audiences expect is for you to up the ante on horror movies. You're going to get more gore. You're going to see more violence. You're going to see crazier traps in your Saw films. You're going to see Hostel 3, where they just get worse and worse. And Human Centipede 3, where now we're just basically eating each other's assholes all the way through it. It just
That movie?
no, and I managed to miss a lot of the really bad ones. My wife watches them for me, so I don't have to.
So I watched Human Centipede 3 with a very good friend of mine, Jake Wolf, and Seth's brother, Corey, by the way. But
Hey, Seth.
like 3/4 of the way through it, we looked at each other and were like, why the fuck are we still watching this? But we watched it because we're not quitters. But about 2 minutes into it, the warden finger blasts some chick, and it's like not weird. But then later in the movie, he actually cuts a dude's balls out and then eats them. But before he eats the balls, he actually looks at me and he goes, power food. Couldn't make it up if I tried. So that's Human Centipede 3 in a nutshell.
Not in a nutshell. The nutshell has been cracked open and the nuts taken.
Human Centipede 3 out of a nutshell.
Out of a nutshell.
Well, one of the things about those tropes of the characters in Cabin in the Woods is I've always thought that they switched them a little weird, because I always thought that Hemsworth's character is set up in the opening scenes to be the scholar, right? He is the one on a full ride scholarship. He is the one giving her suggestions on sociology books. He's a sociology major. I always thought he was the scholar. He's not. He's actually the athlete, and they consider his friend. What's his friend's name?
Holden.
Kurt? Is it Holden? Okay. Oh, you're right. He's Kurt. So Holden, they consider at the end of the film the scholar, which they also kind of allude to as well, because this dude can read a dead language, and that's cool. But I always thought it'd be interesting if they were switched, because at the beginning, when they portray Hemsworth as a brainiac, they portray Holden as the guy with the best throw on the football team, right?
Best throw, and he looks super cut when she sees him without a shirt on through the two-way mirror.
Right.
But they do try to up the ante on him. As they're sitting there on the couch, you can see he's put on glasses. He's looking more intellectual.
They do. They do.
They really try to push them more into those tropes. At the same time, though, I mean, this whole group is full of intelligent people, and so they all kind of go to the wayside towards these different perfect scenarios that they need for this. Because Jules isn't a dumb blonde. I mean, for one, she's not even actually blonde. So they really try to make them the stereotypes as far as they can. Marty's character, also incredibly smart and insightful, which is not what you expect from the character who's the fool.
Right.
But he's just so stoned out of his mind that he works.
A lot of that has to do with the fact that they pointed out prior. Like, most, say your average Friday the 13th movie, you don't see what happens before they get to the cabin. You just see them getting to the cabin, whereas here they showed prior to getting to the cabin. So you see that Jules isn't really a blonde.
Yeah. And
Right.
Dana herself, I mean, you see that she's not virginal. And there's a couple of points where she starts to say things like she's a virgin, and she stops herself. She's like, why am I saying this?
We work with what we have, right?
Right.
Yeah, I've always thought one of the missed opportunities was not having the Tolkien black man die first, because that is like an ultimate horror film trope. But he doesn't in this, which is, I guess, surprising to me, because I remember the first time I saw it, I'm like, yeah, he's dying. He's dying first.
Yeah, but you have to assume that in 2012, if they played up that trope, then there's a very real possibility that could be taken as racist.
And
that's true,
honestly,
but it still happens in all of these films.
Well,
It's
it does, but it also got called out in the Saw movies
It did, that's
multiple
true.
times. And so I think that's the other reason why. And maybe there are some tropes that it's okay to let die.
Right, I agree. I think that one's an okay one to let die.
Yeah, Whedon, it seems like that would be the one like, yeah, we can skip this part.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. Trying to think of other things that happened in the movie. I mean, there was no shortage of like cool shit that happened. And the further in the movie you get, the more and more you kind of want to see the other side, which is really nice. How they work in like going down in the elevator, and then they show all of the other monsters, the other possibilities.
Yeah, just some of the violent deaths. Just weird things that show up. I mean, obviously we get werewolves, we get this giant vampire bat, but then we see somebody get killed by a unicorn, which
That
is
was
just
with the magical sounds happening as it
yeah, it
as
was
he
just
gets
stunning, just beautiful to look at.
right.
We see the family that look essentially like they're out of The Purge or The Strangers or any number of those films where they're just wearing masks and they go into a room where people are there and they're just pouring gasoline on them. So they're not even all necessarily supernatural based. I mean, they're just trying to go with whatever is the random horror movie that's popular that month.
Oh yeah, it has everything from ghosts to zombies to werewolves to vampires to Fornicus, Lord of Bondage and Pain. So, who is that? I'm looking at the name here on Wikipedia. Greg Zak played Fornicus. I'm gonna take a shot in the dark and say it's the guy with the ball, with the little ball that you turn and you click.
Right, the Cenobite looking one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Fornicus sounds like a Cenobite type name.
Yeah, if you Google him, he's like a big, ripped, bald dude.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then we also
that's
have
probably it.
Black.
Yeah.
Who has a
That's
face?
it, that's
We
it.
could find him on Facebook if you want.
Is he on Facebook?
Totally is, and he is not housed with friends. He only has
I
540.
think we have to do this then.
Oh God, I feel like dirty trying to friend this guy, Corey Feldman. He just
You know, Fornicus, Lord of Bondage and Pain really connected with me on a spiritual level.
I kind of feel like I'm more spiritually connected to him than I am Corey Feldman, and I feel like he would judge me if I was trying to friend Corey Feldman. He's like, "Oh, I was gonna add you, dude, but fuck you and your Feldman worship."
Neither of you are. Brett, are you a football fan?
I am a casual football fan, sure.
Fucking Seahawks fan, so I feel like I can't like him given the relationship between the Packers and the Seahawks.
Oh.
I'm gonna keep his Facebook page open just in case I change my mind.
I'm
There
going to
you
mention that I actually, strangely enough, I don't watch football ever, but I own a Seahawks jersey.
What?
It was a gift.
You a communist?
I was in Seattle for something with Geek Squad back when I worked there, and we won this trip up there. Microsoft on the campus gave us a bunch of stuff, including Seahawks
Oh,
jerseys.
well, that's different. If you were given,
But I've been told by friends here in California that I need to burn that thing.
Well, I'm glad that we can send all of your listeners to these poor people's Facebook pages.
that's true.
Yes.
It's very true. I don't know if I feel bad for it, but the guy who plays Fornicus may or may not be pissed off. But although, I mean, what else has he really done? Now we got to go to his IMDb page. You got to figure out what else he's done.
Right. We have to find his LinkedIn and connect.
Yeah, it's totally
A lot
him.
of work here.
Oh no, yeah. If you go to his IMDb page, there's a picture of him as Fornicus, which is the dude with the Cenobite looking.
Is that his only role?
No, he was in Wayward Pines,
Okay.
Legends of Tomorrow, a lot of TV stuff, Supernatural, Fringe, True Justice, Shower
Yeah,
of Bullets, and Olympus.
He's got the build for it. It seems like he would be one of those guys who would. We need a big guy. We need a big guy who can dress up as something weird. Unfortunately, the girl who played Patience, Bruckner, it was only ever in this.
Was that the girl with the missing arm or missing
Yeah,
leg?
the
or one
one-armed
of the
girl
two?
from the family who all went after them.
The
Right.
zombie redneck family or whatever it was.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think here's the interesting thing I wanted to mention as well is that when the security guard asks Whitford's character, so you're basically rigging this system, right? You have to give props to the writing of this film because at no point, yes, they push it along and yes, they instigate these things, but to an extent, his character is correct. These are characters that are making their own choice to go down into the cellar, making their own choice on which item they are going to pick and look into and read or press or turn or whatever. So I think that's interesting because there's probably some commentary to be made on whether or not the victims of horror films put themselves in these positions by doing stupid stuff, right? Like we have that all the time. How many times we watch a horror film and you say, why are you going in there? Why are you doing this? And in this film, they let them do it, and as a result, their fate is flung upon them.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of the difference for me when I watch different movies is I feel okay when I watch the people who are just doing the stupid tropes because, all right, I expect these people to die. It's when you watch them and they feel like real people and they don't feel like they're making all the dumb decisions and then they still die horrifically that you feel a sense of loss about it. You're like, well, shit, I actually like that character. As opposed to, here's the dumb fuckers who are going out in the woods to have sex. Fuck those people.
How do you... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. It's really, it changes the game, but it does show that even when there's rules, you find a way to game the system to make it more to your advantage. Rules are there not so you can break them necessarily, but so you can bend them and work with them as best as possible to get the results you want.
So we actually got a question from Beat that I want to make sure we talk about. Brett, when you disappeared, we were talking to a friend of ours, Beatmaster, who does stuff with Galactic Netcasts.
Yeah, right on.
You're not familiar with him, but he wants to know what you guys think about the stabs that the movie takes at the foreign versions, like the Japanese version, where they have the cheap side effect of the girl and the flowers, and then she's in the... So
yeah, they mentioned Sweden, but we don't really see what Sweden does and fails at, but we do see
6-foot-tall blonde bitches with huge cannons.
See, we don't see any of them. We don't see the details of any of them. Like, it goes to Stockholm and it goes to Berlin and all these different places, but all you see is like a house burning down or something. Whereas the Japanese one, they really push home on that, right? They show you it multiple times in the film.
Yeah, but I feel like, and to be perfectly honest, like Japanese horror movies are a little more of a thing, which obviously that's one they focus on. But it seems very, it seems very in line with what the movie is doing. That it makes fun of like the Japanese movie where it's like the girl in the classroom and
right. It's following what was popular at that point in time, where things like Ringu and Ju-on. The stuff that was popular over here, that worked because at the point that this came out, those movies we were getting remakes of Japanese horror films in America that were the big horror films of their time. In fact, I think we're getting a Ring 3 crossover coming out.
What?
The last I heard that there was a crossover between the Ring and that other one that.
There's a movie called Rings.
Right.
Apparently comes out this year. So for February 17th, 2016 films. October 28th, 2016 is the new release of the movie Rings.
October 28th of 2017?
16.
Okay, this year. Good. I thought it was going to have to go up against Saw 8, and I'm like, well, Jesus, we don't want two franchises returning in the same year. That would be terrible.
Do we? No, we don't. Not at all. But yeah, this was originally called Ring 3D. Going back to what we were talking about earlier.
God damn it.
Yeah. But I didn't know it was a crossover.
Well, I thought I read something about maybe it's in Japan that they're actually doing the crossover between Ju-on and Ringu, and I'm probably butchering the title of both, but...
Yeah. Brad, how do you feel about the Ring movies?
I think I saw the first one a long time ago.
I remember seeing the first one in the theater and being like genuinely scared, but now I go back and I watch it and I'm like, what is this kibble?
Yeah, to be entirely honest, I feel somewhat desensitized to horror films at this point. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but I'm really looking for something to scare me.
So, are you into true crime at all?
No, I haven't seen it.
No. I mean, like the concept.
Just as a genre? Okay.
Yeah. So my wife got me into this podcast called Sword and Scale, and it's all about true crimes, and their tagline is "The real monster," like the worst monsters are real, or some shit. And I just listened to one that was talking about women who like murder their babies, and one was this lady took her baby and put it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and then after it was dead and microwaved for 2 minutes, took it to the doctor, and was like, "What's wrong with my baby?" and played dumb, and they were trying to like get her off on just like a lapse of judgment, and the whole time I just remember thinking like, "Wow, it's really fucked up," but whatever. And I feel like my desensitization to horror movies is now stemming into like real life things.
Yeah, that gets some dangerous territory, right? Like,
I'm not going to kill anybody. Please don't think I'm just saying.
I don't know. Like for example, Game of Thrones has completely desensitized me to gore within that kind of space. Like the other weekend, I hadn't seen it in many years. I watched, goodness, what is it? Mel Gibson. I'm a Scot. Why am I blanking? Braveheart. Braveheart. I watched Braveheart for the first time in a couple years, and that movie, when it came out, that was a doozy of a film for people. And now it's still well done. Like, it does not look fake. But since I've seen things like Game of Thrones, and they're so ingrained in my popular culture and the things I watch, the film does not faze me in any way, shape, or form.
Do you think that's a good or a bad thing?
I don't know, right? Like, because if we get really serious with this, say you have ISIS putting up a video online of someone getting beheaded or getting blown up or something like that, and as a society, we're somewhat desensitized to that kind of practice because it's so commonplace within our popular media. And that's maybe problematic, but weren't we always going in this direction to some extent anyway?
I mean, with the amount of people that we've been seeing die on Facebook of late, I worry that it's going to become something that people become. Obviously, we're enraged by the circumstances, but seeing it happen and how much can we separate the reality versus the fake stuff that we see on TV and in films, and at some point, is it going to become less impactful because of that? I can't watch those things. I can't watch something and see someone actually die and feel like a normal human being afterwards. I watched Faces of Death when I was a kid. I watched it in high school. I watched it actually in a class. We managed to con a teacher into playing it for us at one point. And
your teacher.
Yeah, well, it was the 80s. It was a different time. But it was just, yeah, it's so horrifying to realize that these things might actually be true. And there are some things in horror films that feel so real, like the Cannibal Holocaust stuff, where it's like, that's too messed up for me. I can't really do it. But the funny thing is, the other night we watched The Big Short, which is about the housing market crash and the people behind the scenes who were making it happen and the people who profited on it. And my wife got so pissed off and so disillusioned about just America and about banks and our government and everything after that. She was livid, and she just was like angry about it for a couple of hours afterwards. And I'm like, yeah, that's the reality that I see this stuff all the time because I watch the news and I read things, and she's not normally exposed to these ideas until she sees them in a film that I'm playing in front of her, and she's like, why the fuck are we watching this? But it's weird, the things that will affect us now compared to the things that we've become less sensitive to.
And it's definitely not situational, but it's different for each person, right? A Wall Street banker is probably not going to be overly fazed by The Big Short. Like, two anecdotes I have in regard to this would be, I'm a journalism major in Chicago, and Spotlight is must-see film within that department.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I haven't checked it out yet, but I've been wanting to.
It's on Netflix now, but here's the thing: it can really. I know that Catholics who watched the film felt very distraught about the circumstances of the film, and rightfully so. It's a messed up film, and all these things, like here's a personal example. Yeah, have you guys ever watched American Horror Story?
Yes.
Okay, so American Horror Story, like the first or the second season or something like that, it had a school shootings.
First season did. Yep.
First season did. And I started watching it, and since I was in a school shooting when I was in high school, I cannot watch that season. It turned me off the entire show. I started watching that scene, I'm like, nope, this shit's too real. This is way too real, and I was out. I was out of the door. So it's circumstantial, right? If you've had something in these films or situations that you can relate to in some capacity, even if it's frustration at the mortgage downfall of the late 2000s, then it's going to hit home for you, even if you're somewhat desensitized to the kind of things that are in horror films and drama and what have you.
Yeah, but I also think that's, as a storyteller, as a person who wants to make art and wants to broach subjects that are sometimes uncomfortable and are often things that people will call out trigger warnings for and stuff, I just feel like it's still important that we tell those stories and
Oh yeah, definitely.
put those things out there. And obviously it's better when a person who's going to have a hard time with it knows that that content's in there. But at the same time, that's the reality of life, is that
Oh yeah,
you
we
don't
should not
get to
stop
decide
making these
the
things.
things that are going to affect you. You don't get to decide when something bad happens to you. But with a movie or a TV show, you do get the ability to walk out or turn it off. There's a lot of things in horror movies that are obviously the things that affect me the most. Usually it's torturing of animals, of women, that kind of stuff really skeeves me out. But I also recognize that it's fiction, and if the movie has other redeeming qualities, I can get through it. It's just how far does it go? And so I'm not a big fan of things like Hostel. I'm not a big fan of things that are just so over the top.
No love for a Serbian film.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Never forget.
But I get it, and I think that it's weird because part of what this movie talks about is, horror movies were one way, and they weren't charming. But when we watched a movie that we watched when we first started, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, I went back and I watched the original version, which came out in the early 70s, and that movie, at points in it, was stupid comedy, like out of a Smokey and the Bandit movie, and then other parts of it were really horrifying and dark and torturous, and I couldn't believe this movie at that point in time existed, because it was just as violent as anything that I'd been seeing in recent years, to me at least, in some of the more modern horror films, and it was in some ways impressive that we were already that far with filmmaking to do things that were that dark and that's just sick in a way. So I'm constantly not surprised when I see the next film comes out and it's like, oh, we're going to go further with this, and we're going to go even deeper with this. It's like, yeah, what are you going to do? It's hard enough to get people to pay attention to films. Forward.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, I guess. We've gotten to a point now where I personally need to see something really fucked up, or I need to hear something just asinine to feel uncomfortable. Yet, part of watching horror movies and part of taking in horror content is to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, but I know that there are things that it doesn't even take anything at all. I haven't watched the movie John Wick, which I hear really good things about, the Keanu Reeves movie, because I know that it starts out centered on the death of his dog. And I don't want to see it because of that. And I'm sure it's not a graphic scene. I'm sure it's probably not all that bad. And everybody who loves the film seems to have gotten past that, but I can't do it.
You know what happens. But at that point, it's just kind of like, yeah, man, fucking murder everybody because someone killed their dog. Like,
right.
That's what I would do. That's how I would handle it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been enough movies that are based around, I'm going to go kill everybody because they killed my wife or my girlfriend or my kid or something. But the fact that it's a dog just, it totally puts me off. I always like, oh, yeah, I'll watch that this weekend. I might not watch that. I haven't worked up to it.
Well, maybe part of it is whether or not it's well done then, because John Wick's a well done movie. Right. And, like, for example, another example, I'm not going to spoil anything here, but the 9th episode of Game of Thrones this season, like, it was done so well. The Battle of the Bastards is performed and executed and shot and edited so spectacularly that it's uncomfortable to watch. Like, it was a stressing thing for me to watch, which I had not experienced in a very, very long time.
I still have the occasional recurring nightmare about the Red Wedding.
Yeah, they do it really well.
That whole episode, that scene really affected me, and I knew going into it what was going to happen, at least in some ideas, but it was just so well done that it affected me, and it stuck with me, and I was surprised at how much it stuck with me, because it wasn't anything that's normally triggers for me, but it still did its damage. But I stayed with the show after that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
By the way, I want to issue a correction. Jadelle Ferland, who played the Buckner girl with the one arm, I was way off. She's been in tons of things, including she's on the TV series Dark Matter right now. So I just clicked the wrong link earlier.
You're fucking fired.
I get stuff wrong a lot, and I hear the episodes later. I'm like, wait, why can I not remember the difference between David Wan and Justin Lin? And I completely screwed that up. I keep waiting for somebody to correct me. Apparently, no one gives a shit about what I say.
Yeah, we just get called mediocre bitch a lot by Russian bots on YouTube.
Thank you, YouTube. We love you too.
Is life. Let's go ahead and get into the ranking. I feel like we really got incredibly off topic, but great conversation. It's probably the deepest conversation that we've ever had on this podcast. So, thanks, Brett.
Podcast of Terror, going deep since 2015.
We're coming up on our 1 year anniversary here.
Congrats, guys. That's awesome.
17 years, and then we're legal. I made myself laugh. We're going to rank Cabin in the Woods on a 0 to 5 scale in three categories. Rewatchability, story, and scariness. Let's start first on rewatchability, and we'll start with Brett because you're the man of the hour.
All right. I would give it a solid... I'd give it a solid 4 for the second time, and then maybe 3 for every time after that, depending on how long you're giving between the viewings. But I think it's a film that has a lot to offer because some horror films, once you've seen the twist, once you've seen the end, maybe that magic of it is somewhat lost. I don't think Cabin in the Woods necessarily does that.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's infinitely rewatchable because of how good it is and how great the characters are and how impeccable the storytelling and character creation is. But you're right. Once you've seen it the first time, you definitely want to watch it at least once more. And after that, you'll just watch it every once in a while because it's just a really fun, cool-ass horror movie. So I would go rewatchability 4, but I would say even a 5 that first time that you watched it and watching it again.
Right on.
So what's your fucking pick, guy?
I'll go 4.
Okay, 4. Good, we'll leave it at that then. I'm going to go with... Oh, man, this is actually harder than I thought it would be. I think I'll go with a 3. First time I watched it, I remember it being meh. But now that I've gone back, rewatched it, we've talked about it, and I kind of thought more about the movie instead of it just being on.
And you watched it all the way to the end?
And I watched to the end. I don't, and that's the thing. I don't know if I finished it the last time, and I just don't know that I finished it. I don't know. I was probably.
By the way, Bruce Willis is dead at the end of. Just. Whoa. I wonder how many movies you haven't made it to the end to.
Come on.
Hey, I just gotta say, on Geek Cinema Society a couple weeks ago, we did Sixth Sense. That'll be coming out in a little bit, and our guest did not know. So there are people who don't know.
I mean, they spell it out, but you'll have to listen to Geek Cinema Society to figure out why.
By the way, I wasn't talking about Sixth Sense. I was talking about Moonlighting.
Oh, okay.
Bruce Willis was dead the whole time. It was all a figment of Herbert's imagination.
We digress. How about the story, Brett?
You know, I'm gonna give it a 5. I think it's a great story because it redefines, maybe not redefines because there isn't anything else like it, but it turns storytelling within a horror compass inside out and attempts to take these tropes and take these ideas and all these things that you want and things you don't want and just mix them together in a film that ends up working very well.
Corey?
I have an uncle who is one of my favorite people in the world, actually is the one who married my wife and I. He has the ability to talk shit to somebody to their face without them being able to get pissed off because he's just so charming and good at it. And I feel like that is what this movie was. This movie is both a love letter to horror films and a huge critique on horror films at the same time, but you have to enjoy it and respect it because of how good it is. And I'm going to give it a 5.
I didn't know where you were going with that, but I'm really glad that you brought it full circle. I'm going to go ahead and say 5-2. I mean, you guys pretty much spelled it out. If you're not sure why we gave it 5s, then go back about an hour and 5 minutes and then start the fucking episode over again. Scariness. Brett?
I'm desensitized. I don't find this movie scary at all. It's a 1 in the scary department for me. I've never found this movie scary. The people I watched it with this weekend, the only part they've never seen it. The only part at which they jumped was the werewolf when it jumps up on the when they're inside the elevator. But if society wasn't so screwed up, I'd probably say like a 2. But but I'm pretty desensitized, so I think it's a 1, and I think that's okay for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't watched a ton of horror movies, I mean, you saw that something was going to jump out a mile away.
Oh yeah. So I guess I should preface that and say this is from someone who watches a lot of horror films, so I understand what they're trying to say with these jump scares and with these stereotypical types of scares. So in that way, it's not too scary to me.
That's always the hardest part with rating on scariness, is because we watch a horror movie and rate it every week. And how often are we actually frightened by these things anymore? Suspense, maybe. Certainly, if I was coming into this dry, to quote Matt to his wife, I would say that it would probably be a 3. Certainly, just the look of the merman. Like, they prep you and say the merman is horrifying, but then to actually see the merman happen and how it's biting down on the guy and sucking its blood out and then shooting blood out of its blowhole on its back, that will kill your wiener.
You know what? I think you've convinced me. I think I might have to go back up to like a 2, because I think you know what? I think it's so well done in terms of the way they crafted these monsters that it could definitely be scary for some people.
I agree. Corey, did you ever give it a number?
The scariness, I gave it a 3.
3. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. You said a lot of things without really saying anything.
That is what I do on this show.
I'm
at work and in my marriage.
Tell Aaron, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and give scariness a 1.5. Really nothing that scary, but
it does play more for comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can contact us by leaving us a voicemail at 805-328-3966. You can email us at PoT@gncast.com, or you can leave us a message on the website. We want to hear from you, basically, if you didn't figure that out by what I all just said. Let us know what you like of the show, what you hate of the show, why Russian bots are calling us mediocre bitches on YouTube, something else you want us to do better, different. Basically, we do this for you. So tell us what you guys like. We will cater the show to you, so you keep coming back. I said the word "you" a lot in there because I love you. Please follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Podcast of Terror. Also, subscribe to this podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any of your favorite podcatchers. Leave us feedback, 5-star ratings, please. We only have like 2. I'd like more. On whatever one you like. Subscription options and links can be found at gncast.com/subscribe, and you can join us on our Facebook page under Galactic Netcasts. Brett, thank you very much for taking time out of your trip to hang out with us. Where can people find you? Push whatever you want to push right here.
Yeah, it was my pleasure, guys. You can find me on brettdavidstewart.com. I got a new album coming out here in about 2.5 weeks. You can follow me on Twitter at Rivers Rubin. That is a stage name I do that music under. That is Rivers and then Rubin with an I, not me. And connect with me there, and I'll connect back with you. I'm also doing the Jukebox Podcast. As always, if you want to hear some great independent music or discussions, Matt was on the other month. Check that out. We play a lot of music. We have a lot of discussions. Really cool stuff. And then finally, I am one of the hosts of the Geek Cinema Society, which is a film-related podcast that's going to be over on the Blazing Caribou Studios network come really about 5 days from now, if not less. So,
yeah. Blazing Caribou's got a bunch of cool shit over there. I do rounds and breakdowns if you're into music and, well,
exactly.
MMA. Adding some more stuff. Corey, how about you?
You can find me. I do stuff related to comics at donexcomics.com. We have been releasing the classic comic Levi's World by Levi Krauss from the 90s, and we just started releasing our other comic Spells, which was drawn and created by Levi and written by our friend Chris Yambar, who did Mr. Beat and works on Simpsons comics at Boingo. So we're hoping to add some more stuff on there soon, but you can go to donutscomics.com and click the different individual links for the different comics that we've done.
Awesome. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Matt the Lifeguard. That's going to do it for another episode of Podcast Terror. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next week. Now, Brett, normally I'll play an ad and then we do the next week thing here.
Yeah.
If you want to stick around so we can talk about Geek Cinema, that's fine. I'm just going to pee now.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I should bring this up. No good for this episode. But we drop ads in for the different shows on our network currently.
Right.
But we would love to have ads for... Yeah, go pee. We would love to have ads for the shows that you guys do over on Blazing Caribou or your own show. Just something real quick. If you listen to any of our... the most recent episodes, we started putting the ads in. Just something that says where to find you, what the show is, that kind of thing. And we would drop that in at the end. It's just giving us the ability to kind of cross-promote.
Oh, yeah,
friends
that'd be
and
great.
stuff.
In fact, we have a whole folder of those, and then if you guys have some, you can send us, and we'll put them in our rotation as well. I'll let Sean know about that, Sean Burns, and he'll hook up with you guys and make it happen.
Yeah, I think Sean's aware because Sean does a show on the network. He does the X-Files show
Right,
with his son. And I believe that was something that we talked about with him and probably Carrie as well. But it's just, it has nothing to do with Blazing Caribou. It has to do with, it's like a friends and family thing.
Yeah, sure. That sounds great. I'll send those over to you, and we'll play some stuff for your guys' show on Geek Cinema.
Yeah, I mean, we had talked about this with Dave a little while ago, and it seems like, yeah, we can collect netcasts, but people kind of understand. We talk about collecting netcasts and where to go to the site and everything while we're doing this, but it would be nice to be able to share, because we have such a great family of podcasters between you guys and the guys from Ink Geeks and Worst Episode Ever, and just in general, like we do the ads for Mad Vincent and Stratosphere at the opening of the show. So it's just, we figure it's better to promote people that we like, not just ourselves, because again, we say we do the show for other people, and that's true.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Cool.
Great. Now, I'd love to get... Corey, would you like to come on Geek Cinema Society?
Absolutely. I think.
Have you been sent it by anyone?
No.
Okay, let me send it to you. So, but do you know the stick of the show is that we had people vote on a huge list of like 500 films.
I remember the vote.
Right, what are the most self-respecting geek-type films and all that sort of thing. And then we got them all in a Google Doc, and what we're doing is we're having each guest pick a film that they've never seen before.
Right.
And then they're going to watch it the week of the show. So I have Matt scheduled for Fahrenheit 451. What I can do is I can send you a link to it right here, and you can take time, look over it, and I'll just connect with you later once you pick the movie.
Yeah, that sounds
And
great.
we'll schedule you in. Let me get the link real quick. The link that works. And then, Matt, I would love to get you rescheduled.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess what dates are you looking at?
Are you available on... Ooh, let me pull the calendar here. The 28th. 28th or the 4th?
28th of July?
Yeah, yeah.
28th is a Thursday, Matt.
Thursday, right? We always record on Thursday.
The 4th, I feel like I have something. I don't think I have anything the 28th.
That would be great. So it would be, we record at, you'll get a Google Calendar invite, but we record at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You're in Central, right?
Yeah.
All right, so it'll be 8 o'clock your time. And the show's an hour long. And then Corey, I have the thing right here. I'm gonna send you the link on Facebook. Okay.
Sure.
All right, I just sent it to you.
Excellent.
Yeah, so take your time and just respond and let me know what film you're into. I think we added another 100 films to the list because we were actually finding people who had seen the vast majority of them. So
Yeah,
we've
that's
done
the
our
problem when we're all
7
geeks.
Yeah. So we've done 7 of the episodes now, and the first one's going to come out this week. So
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it.
yeah, it'll be good. It's a good first episode, I think. Superman.
Yeah.
All right. So do you want me to put you in for the 28th?
Yeah, please. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem at all. All right, you'll get a calendar invite, and if you have any questions, just let me know. I'll send you a rundown of the show, just like you did me this week,
Yeah.
and it'll be a lot of fun.
Cool, man. Thanks again. Sorry, I just got asked to fill in drums for a band for an entire tour. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Complimented?
Well, yeah, totally, but yeah, weird. Sorry. Yeah, 28th. I'm good. Tits.
All right, great. And then Corey, once you have a film picked, I'll coordinate with you, and we'll find a day that works for you.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. It was a pleasure being on. I love the shows you guys do. So keep up the great work.
Thank you, Brett. We were real glad to have you on.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. I'm getting I tried 2 different inputs on my audio card, and I'm getting kind of a crunch from you guys a little bit every once in a while, too.
Yeah,
Did you get any
really
from me?
must be Google.
Yeah, it's totally brutal. You got crunchy, but I just kind of rolled with it.
And it was
Yeah.
weird because it would happen, and then you would keep talking, it would clear up, and then it would come back. So it's got to be Hangouts.
Yeah, because I'm getting exactly the same thing from you guys. Every 5 or so minutes, it'll come up kind of crunchy, and then it'll just subside.
Yeah.
So.
It was never so bad that I think it was going to damage the quality of being able to understand what you were saying. So we didn't feel
All
like
right, good stuff. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. I got to head off. You guys have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, Brett. You too.
Buddy, take
All
care.
right, later, guys.
All right. Huh. Excuse me. I just threw up a little. Yeah.
Thanks, Pete.
You just see what Beat said?
Yeah.
Let me kill YouTube. Bye, YouTube.